What's going on, guys? Paint a Smile here. Today in this video, as already mentioned before in my last video, I am going to be reviewing a few Bala songs that I recently got that I've been using and testing over the course of the last week and a half or so. The last one was the Canyon, which is the first one. The second one is going to be the Nabalis Vulp Pro False Edge. Now, I'm going to say something. I recently made a post on Reddit about a week-ish ago saying, and anyone who's in the Valley community on Reddit probably saw it, I said that the Vulp Pro False Live is the sports car of Bala songs. That it can be used as a daily driver or a grail and be treasured. It's sleek, it flips fast, it's light, and I said that it was kind of like the sports car of Bala songs to me. And when I posted that, I ended up getting a lot of hate for it. I'll get into the review here in a second, but I just want to share this little story. I got a lot of hate for it, at least by other members in the community. And sure, others are allowed to have their own opinion that it's not, but my opinion was that it was the sports car of Bala songs. I'm a fucking nobody, so I don't know why anyone was taking my opinion way too seriously. Because that's what they were doing. They were taking it way too seriously. And Brandon Baker, Will's friend, who helped create the Vulp, like all the Vulp variations, he ended up making a comment, or making a few comments on my post saying, saying that it wasn't their intention to create the sports car Bala songs, and even he didn't have that opinion about it. And I said, you know what, that's fine. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. I just think that, at least in my opinion, it is. Now, remember what I said sports car, not supercar, not hypercar. I would put this thing into a category of a sports car, because you know what else is a sports car? The newer Honda Civics. The newer Honda Civics are sports cars, more or less. A sports car doesn't have to be, something that only a certain amount of people can get. I see sports cars every day, whether it be Camaros, Challengers, Chargers, this, that, the other. You get my drift. People were mentioning the Swift T and the Seraph and other type of Bala songs like that as sports cars, and I said, bro, those are supercars. Those would be supercars. And someone even mentioned like the Acid Works ones and stuff like that. I was like, bro, those would be hypercars. Like, a Nami I would consider a hypercar, not even a supercar. The Swift T and the Seraph I would consider supercars. But I think when you get to, like, the Telesto would be a hypercar. The Telesto from Henninger Designs, like, this would be a hypercar. Granted, a very basic hypercar, but you get my point. But, in my opinion, I thought the Vulp Pro was a sports car. And I ended up getting a lot of hate for it. Now, granted, I got more upvotes on the actual post than downvotes. But in my comments, when I was defending my point, I ended up getting a lot of downvotes. And I'm not sure why. But at the end of the day, I really don't care. It's my opinion, and it's going to be my opinion. But yeah, rant over. Let's go ahead and get into the actual review and the actual point of the video. So, the Vulp Pro False Edge. As stated before, I've never flipped any of the previous Vulps, like the Vulp Pro Normal or the Trainer. This is the first Vulp that I've ever had in my hands, or I've ever tried and bought in general. And you know what? I'm not disappointed. I think that it flips really well. It's got really good tolerances. The aluminum is strong. The grip feels good. I know a lot of people on the previous Vulp, on the normal one, were complaining about the grip. Even though I haven't felt it, I do know that anodized aluminum is very slippery. I think the previous Vulp was, the normal one was bead blasted, but I've still heard that was kind of slippery. But yeah, even though the aluminum is slippery, I don't, since there's so much grip at the top where your fingers normally are, I don't feel it hinders it in any way. It actually feels really smooth, you know? It feels really smooth, really good. I haven't had any binding issues. It came Loctited, which great. The handles are 70-75, and the blade is a more of a higher quality blade. It's AUS 10 or AUS 10 steel. Now, in the knife world, that's not a particularly good steel. It's a good budget stainless steel. It is. But I've noticed with balisongs, you can't really make a balisong with a higher quality steel, like a more notable knife steel, without upping the price, because most of your cost already goes into actually making the balisong and doing all the other stuff that balisongs require. With a folding knife or a fixed blade, the steel is most of the, most of the reason you're buying the knife. For balisongs, people are mostly getting it for flipping, so what's the point of wasting time with good steels for cheaper balisongs like this? That's kind of the more reason that companies use cheaper steels for balisongs. Except some of like the more like smaller companies, kind of like or like the one man makers and stuff like that, like Henninger Forrest. He does, at least the Telesto is S45VN. Now, granted, the fucking Telesto is damn near $1,000, but point still stands. But yeah, in the knife world, AUS 10 is not a very impressive steel. It's a good budget steel. Like, let's say if you're getting like a budget folding knife, it would probably cost around maybe $30 to $60, depending on what the knife actually is, fixed blade or folding. But for a balisong, I think it's not bad. The handle gap, this is the handle gap closed, and this is the handle gap open. It's a little smaller when it's open, but that's fine. But yeah, I think it flips really good. The only thing I have to say is it carries a lot less momentum than I thought it would. Because the other aluminum balisongs that I have are, of course, the Orion and the Nabalis wing. And of course, like the few donut clones I have, which I'll make videos on in the future if I haven't done that already. I can't remember. But I have the wing false edge and the wing trainer in here. I'm not going to pull it out. But the aluminum in this one carries a lot more momentum than the Vulp Pro. Like this one feels a little more substantial in the hand. And same thing with the Orion. Even the Orion, even though it's like $90, like, even though it's not Chandler or anything, it's Chandlich. But no, it's sandwich. But the weights in the end give it more momentum, and because of that, it feels more substantial in the hand, and it flips really good. But the Vulp Pro, not that it flips bad, it flips really good. Even though it doesn't carry a lot of momentum, it still carries it well. What momentum it does have, it carries it well. It just feels light to me, like a little too light. Also, if y'all care, here's a sound test. Dry, of course, like I said, how I like my bellies. But yeah, one of the first things I said was, wow, this thing kind of feels like a toy. Like, this thing feels like a legitimate toy. Not not to any discredit to Brandon or Will and any of the guys at Nabalis for it. Obviously, it's the Vulp Pro was to fall in line with more Will's flipping style and Will's preferred balances and stuff. But it feels like a toy. The balance point is... That's the balance point right there. It's about pretty much almost to where the G10 stops. Or the G10 narrows out, I mean. But, yeah, it feels good. It just feels light. Now, not that it's a bad thing. I can still flip it. It's not, like, dramatically light to where it's like, oh, I can't flip this because it's so light, this, that, and the other. No, you can still flip it. It just feels a little toyish to me. It's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you're younger getting into the hobby, you don't really want a titanium one straight off the bat. You kind of want one you can like learn on and not be too heavy. This is probably one of the better ones, probably the trainer. From what I've heard, since I've never flipped the trainer, this one is a little more neutral than the trainer is. The trainers are in general always going to be a little more handle biased than lives because of the weight taken off the blade. But this one supposedly feels a little more. It feels fairly neutral. Obviously, there's still a bit of handle bias, but it's more neutral than a trainer would be, in my opinion. But yeah, I like it. I'm probably going to sharpen this one eventually and maybe carry it. I haven't decided yet. Just because, like I said before, OS 10 isn't an impressive, like it's impressive for a ballast song, like a cheaper ballast song, because this is a budget ballast song. Like, no offense, but it is. It's impressive by ballast song standards, but for knife standards, it's not impressive, but it's not something to laugh at either. It'll get the job done, and it'll keep its edge fairly well. But yeah, I'm probably going to sharpen this sometime in the future. That's been the Vulp Pro. I don't have too much to say about it. One more thing I want to bring up. The Cygnus blade allegations, saying how the blade looks like a copy of the Cygnus because of like the Bowie profile in the hole, like where that little cutout is. First of all, Bowie designed ballast song blades are always going to look the same for the most part. It looks nothing alike in the sense of where the hole is. First of all, this hole is fatter. This hole is fatter than the one with Cygnus, and the blade actual height is also taller than the Cygnus as well. And the trailing point right here in the front, that's also longer than the Cygnus's one as well. People are being a little too dramatic with the Cygnus allegations, I think. I've seen the comparison videos. I've done my own look into it. But I just don't see how people can be so upset over how a blade looks. Especially when Will is also a creator in the hobby himself. Why would he go and copy another design? And even then, he's not copying a design at all. Taking inspiration from and copying are two different things. If no one took inspiration from anything, we wouldn't get anything new. If you didn't get inspired by anything, we wouldn't get any shit. We wouldn't get any newer things in anything. But yeah, that's just something all I want to rant about right there. I like the Vulp Pro. I'm going to continue flipping it. I'm going to EDC it as just like a ballast song that I can flip and not really care who sees me because, well, I live in Texas, so no one gives a fuck anyway. But the Telesto kind of scares people. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't give a fuck who sees me. You know, if I'm near a kid, if I'm near, like, children or whatever, I'll put it away until later. But the Telesto kind of scares people just because of how big it is, and there's, I guess, gray and black color schemes make a knife look scary. So this one is red, and like I said, it looks and feels like a toy. So this one I can probably flip out in public and not get too many weird looks. But yeah, I like the Vulp Pro. I think it flips really well. I just think it's a bit on the lighter side. Maybe if someone eventually comes out with a little bit of a heavier weights for the handles, maybe I'll try those. But other than that, it feels great. And I'm going to continue flipping it. And I'll see you guys in the next video that I'm literally about to go record. Peace.